gritty defense, and epic saves, we're covering it all. So lace your skates up, grab your favorite jersey, and get ready to dive deep into the world of hockey. This is the 5-hole where every shot counts and every story is a game changer. Let's drop the puck and get started.
And good morning. Welcome to another episode of the 5-hole. My name is Brandon. You got Aaron with us today as well, and we're going to talk some NHL hockey on this wonderful, well, I guess rainy Sunday morning here.
It's sunny. It's sunny up north, so
yeah, must be nice. We've had pretty good weather the last couple of days, 4 or 5 days or so, and it's supposed to rain the next 4 or 5 days. So,
oh my god,
it's gonna be a blast. But let's talk some hockey today. Aaron, let's just jump in. How do you feel about your Rangers so far into the season?
Still pay the man. Pay Igor. I just saw yesterday that Lafayette changed up the lines a little bit, so I'm actually pretty good with that. So it looks like they put Laff, Zibanejad, and I think Panarin together as a line. So then it's Trocheck. Who was their 2Cs? Trocheck. What are they trying to do? I think they just switched the first two lines.
Yeah.
Blanking how they want to do it, but I think that's how it was. So I'm actually cool with that because even though we beat Ottawa on Friday night, Igor had 40 saves, and I think Ottawa only had I think Allmark only stopped 19 or 20, and that's just unacceptable. We can't be doing that. So I know he switched up the D pairs. So we have Zach Jones and Schneider together. I don't like the Keandre Miller Trouba. It just doesn't work. I saw it last year in the playoffs, and it just didn't work at all. So I don't know why they keep going to that. But Keandre Miller needs to step it up big time because I don't know if you watched that Washington game.
I did not know.
Ovechkin's getting real close to Gretzky. He scored 2 goals against us real quick. And Keandre Miller was literally just playing like patty cake. He would just kind of touch the guy like this and not just ram into him and do anything like that. So he's got to step up big time. Other than that, shit, just pay Igor.
Yeah. I'll try to figure out how many more he needs. I know he's down in the 30s.
Yeah, I think he has 3 goals the last 4 games.
Right. Yeah. I'd imagine. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't get it at this point.
Yeah, he's gonna get it, and then he has 1 year left on his deal, so he could retire because he has the record, or he could play his last year next year, right, and just break a record that will never. I mean, create a record that'll never be broken.
Yeah.
But what's going on in St. Louis though? I mean, it's literal blues because it's raining down there.
Yeah,
getting beat up by Ottawa 8-2. I think you guys have been. I could be wrong, but you've gotten outscored 16-4 at one in the 2-game or 3-game span.
Yeah, against Montreal and Ottawa. Losing Robert Thomas was big. He's going to be out at least probably another month or so with the broken ankle. They lost Philip Broberg last night in the game to Toronto. Even though they ended up winning 4-2. He had a hyperextended knee. So hopefully he's not going to be out too long. Hopefully there's nothing else wrong there, because it's definitely a guy that has produced since the beginning of the season, and the Blues have used. He's been a great asset to the team so far. They're 6-5. They're one point out of a wild card spot right now. I know it's just early. I don't want to talk about playoffs and stuff too much, but they're right where I think everybody, at least who keeps up with the Blues and stuff, expected them to be. They didn't expect us. We don't expect the Blues to be a top team in the West right now. But they should fight for a wild card spot. It was just some not so great defensive play from some of our top, from some of the top guys. Just a little banged up, a little beat up right now. But I think they'll be all right. They'll get things together. They got a couple not so great schedule coming up. Obviously you had the game against Toronto last night, and then your Tuesday, you got Tampa Bay at home, and then you have Utah at home, and then Washington at home, and then Boston. So you get 5 games at home before you go back on the road to Buffalo on the 14th. So it's a tough little stretch. I mean, Tampa Bay's solid team. Utah's at 1 point above them right now in the standings in the Central, and then you have Washington and Boston. And Boston's probably the one team you look at there and go, we could probably get a win there.
You see what happens when you pay your goalie late?
Yeah.
He's in preseason form still.
Yeah, who? Oh,
Jeremy Swayman. He's basically giving up like 4 to 5 goals a night.
Yeah, they don't look like a very good hockey club right now, and it's just part of it. And we talked about them last week too, but I mean, with the Blues, I think they'll be fine. They just got to get things figured out, things situated with the injuries and whatnot. But they think they'll be all right. The win last night was big. It was a big win.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Finland series between Dallas and Florida?
I didn't. I saw some of like the little like highlights and stuff. I know the Florida swept the series, didn't they?
Oh yeah. They got Barkov back.
Yeah.
He scored a goal Friday night, and he was one of 4 players that was from that location in Finland.
Yeah, the gold helmet thing too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. This team with Barkov back, Tkachuk back, everyone's healthy. Whew, dude, they were steamrolling this Dallas team. I mean, Jason Robertson had a sick goal. I think it was in Friday night. It was basically like a behind the back pass.
Right.
It was pretty cool. But this Florida team is looking pretty sharp, even though they lost a few key pieces. I think having Barkov back is still making them a powerhouse. Yeah. Because they were just shredding Dallas, whether it was with Ottinger or I think what's his name, DeSmith as the other goalie. But it was crazy. Yeah,
Casey DeSmith, the guy that was in Pittsburgh for a little while, as well. But you take a look at the standings check here. You have Florida number 1 in the Atlantic right now at 19 points. Tampa Bay's second in the Atlantic at 14, and you have Toronto there in the third spot with 13 points. Ottawa is right there with 12.
They're a good team. Don't let it fool you. I mean, I know Shane Pinto. We talked about him last week. I guess he got hurt. I didn't even realize it. But it's weird. They've been rebuilding for the last 10 years.
Right.
So they're actually getting at the age with their players that they're going to be into their prime. I mean, and still, Claude Giroux's 34, 35. We remember him from the Flyers for all these years, and he's still dominating.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, but he's still doing really good for this team. He's a good veteran presence. They have a lot of good young guys. And who knew trading Jacob Chitrin, who was okay offensively, but he just kind of lacked a little bit in the defense, actually improved them better with that loss.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have Detroit, Boston with 11 points. It's 5. Detroit's 5-5-1. Boston sitting in 6th place at 5-6-1, and you finish out the Atlantic with Buffalo and Montreal 9 points each at 4-7-1 as well. So, any other surprises you see there? Obviously, Boston's got to be one of those that you look at and go, "Ooh, what's wrong with this team?"
Well, I don't know if I talked about it on the 5-hole when we were doing the free agency, but pretty much Vancouver and Boston got rid of the same players and received the same players back. It didn't, so it really didn't make that big of an impact. It's just that they paid Zadorov and Lindell more money. That's the only thing. So the fact that you paid Jeremy Swayman 2 days before the regular season. Yeah, threw him in there game 3. He's still pretty much in preseason mode, so I think he's given up. It has to be an average of 4 goals. Has to be.
I'm gonna look here too.
Yeah, the defense does not look sharp, and it was crazy. Zadorov is a pretty good defenseman. He's traveled a bit in the league, but he's still a pretty good defenseman. And I think before Brandon Montour this week, he was the last defenseman to score a hat trick. So. I don't know. It's just crazy that they try to put more just pieces to this puzzle that don't exactly fit and they're not gelling. And right now I keep seeing Jim Montgomery's on the hot seat. The dude set a record 2 years ago and you're going to fire him in your 3rd year. It's just insane. But yeah, this team, I think they just need a reality check. They'll be all right. I just think because Swayman's in preseason mode still, it's gonna take him a little bit longer to get back in the groove.
Yeah, so just kind of looking at some of the things here with Swayman. It's 3 wins, 4 losses, one overtime loss. He has a goals against average of 3.57, save percentage of 0.884. He is below the 50th percentile in across the league. League averages for goals against is 3.24 right now. Again, he's sitting at the 3.75. Or 5.7. I'm sorry, 5.7, not 7.5. So yeah, he's letting about 3.5 goals in a game, give or take. He's below 50th percentile in overall saves, below 50th in high danger save percentage. This NHL Edge stuff is actually really cool. This is the first time I've kind of looked at this. His 77th percentile in saves, so he's 206 saves on the season. So that means they're letting up a lot of shots too, which doesn't necessarily mean that he's playing bad, which I mean, I'm sure he's not playing great, but if you get 40, 45, shots on you a night, it's going to take a toll. I mean, we saw it last year. That was one of the biggest thing with the Blues and Bennington is that a lot of the times the defensive guys left him out. They just let him out to dry. And he had no chance whatsoever at making a save. So it's tough. It's got to be tough for Swayman right now. It's definitely tough for the Boston Bruins to be in the situation they're in. And I do agree. I think Jim, I think they're going to give him a little bit of a leash here. I don't think it's going to be like a quick turnaround of wanting to fire Jim Montgomery because
I mean the leash is getting shorter and shorter. Depending on how it goes. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's got to be. It's rough for a team like that who's had all this success over the last several years, to be one of the better teams across the league and whatnot. And maybe they'll turn things around. There's still a lot of hockey left.
Yeah, speaking of teams that were good, and I'm not sure if they're going to turn around, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, they sent Tristan Jarry down they said developmental reasons. They just didn't want anyone to pick him up when they cut him.
Yeah,
they signed him to a big deal. I think it was last year. And this team with Kyle Dubas, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what's going on. The two best guys is just still Crosby and Malkin. Loved what they did for Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, that was great.
Especially with Chris Letang and Sidney Crosby being out there after he was the first star player because there's always 3. So I thought that was really good for them. But Pittsburgh in general, they are just going down. And what I was reading was people were like, "Oh, if they have Sidney Crosby and Kenny Malkin, you're good. You're gonna still be in the middle of the pack." And they're at the bottom of the Metro right now. So I don't know what Kyle Dubas is doing, but a lot of changes need to go, or another good head coach, Mike Sullivan, will get canned, and it's not his fault.
Yeah. Jump over to the standings checks of the Metropolitan too. You have the Washington Capitals, who are now first place in the Metro at 16 points. They're 8-2-0 on the season. The New Jersey Devils, they're tied for first, but they've played 4 more games than the Capitals. They're 7-5-2, and then your Rangers are right there, 15 points, 7-2-1, and you have the Carolina Hurricanes, who I said at the beginning of the season I don't think are going to be as good as they were, or good as they have been over the last couple of years. I might be wrong on that because they're 7-2-0 with 14 points. So far, I just thought they lost. I thought the Carolina Hurricanes lost a good amount of guys that they weren't going to be able to recover as quickly.
We all did.
And I mean, as of right now, they've only played 9 games compared to everybody else in their division who's in double digits already. So, I mean, I'll give them the credit. I was wrong right now on the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, Martin Necas, I think, is probably one of their best players so far in this stretch. I think he's had 6 or 7 goals in the last 10 games. Jack Roslovic has 6 goals already. I think we don't factor in what's going on with Brendan Moore is that he sells you a system. He takes every inch and every blood, everything out of you, and yet he finds the winning product. I don't know how he does it. I have no idea. Like Shane Gostisbehere was there once before he went to Detroit, and he came back, and he's playing pretty well on the power play and the penalty kill. Yeah, I mean, I know Frederick Anderson is out for a few weeks, so that might hurt them again last year, even though they're back up. Kind of blanking on the name. I'm looking right at, I think it's with an S. He wasn't too bad, so I think that's going to be good. They didn't really lose a step in that, but yeah, this team's definitely surprising.
Yeah. You talk about Martinikas, he's 18 shots on goal. League average right now is 17, so he's about that 58th percentile area. He has 5 goals on the season, so it's a solid number. Most of them have come from the looks like left side of the ice. So
yeah, I know he has like 2 game winners or something like that.
Yeah. Let's see here. What else do we got? Power play. No. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's definitely the solid kind of core piece that's helping the Carolina Hurricanes to the point where they're at right now, which is nice, because I know they talked about, there was a lot of talks of him being traded in this past offseason, before they did sign him to that contract, which we talked on a way long ago episode of the 5-hole. As well. How about the Columbus Blue Jackets? 5-1, 11 points so far, 5th in the Central, or in the Metropolitan. Any thoughts on the Columbus Blue Jackets?
I mean, the fact that they had a Wednesday night prime game, which you never see Columbus do. I think they're not going to be a playoff team. I think they're just going to ride that Johnny Gaudreau, not high, but just like that momentum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think they'll just go as far as they can. I think they're going to have a decent season. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I actually like what they're doing. They actually have a good coach. So, the guy they had last year, what was his name? Vincent something, and he was just trash.
Right.
He didn't know what he was doing. So I think they're in a very good direction going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that they're right in the middle of things, which isn't always a bad thing, to be at that mark, where they're at now, which is, it's a good thing for Columbus at the same time. But let's talk about real quick, since they're in the title here, let's talk about the Washington Capitals. So they're out 8-2. I know you don't want to talk about them. But they're 8-2 on the season so far, 16 points, first place in the Metro. Are you a little? I mean, you have to be a little surprised. I figured they were going to be more of like where Columbus is. They're going to be in the middle of the pack, type of team. I wouldn't say as expected the Washington Capitals to be, at the top of the food chain in the Metro right now.
No, I think everyone that I was listening to over the offseason, they had them at least in that 4 or 5. They like the Jacob Chychrun. They like the Pierre-Luc Dubois, just because of the Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
We know the contract, because the contracts are kind of balanced out. But they didn't expect anybody to be like this. And I think it's just because they don't have Alexander Ovechkin being that guy.
Yeah.
He can actually finally play wing in his career. He doesn't have to carry anything. So I think that helps a lot for this team. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, still hasn't done anything, which is kind of funny. This is like his second year. He doesn't know how to play hockey. But I think the Jacob Chychrun for them on defense helped a lot. Dylan McElrath is still one of the last enforcers, as he kind of beat up Rempe. You put it out there that he came back from Hartford to play that game. I totally forgot he went up against Dylan McElrath in the AHL when he was with the Hershey Bears against the Wolfpacks. I'm like, oh, that's why. But
they sent him back down too. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing with that kid. I think they're doing it the wrong way, but yeah. And then the goaltending, even though you have Ryan Lindgren's brother, but you also have Thompson, who has a ring,
Mhm.
and he was the starter in Vegas
In
before
Vegas,
Aiden Hill came in when he got hurt. So that's they just improved it all, and I think everyone's just kind of buying into that system and Washington. And I still think the biggest is that Ovechkin can just play. He doesn't
yeah,
have to worry about carrying anybody.
right. So they have their shots on goal this year. They only have 305 shots compared to a league average of 333. Well, they have 44 goals though in those 305 shots. With the league average is 36 right now, so they're above the league average when it comes to just goals in general, which is, I mean, it's very helpful when you can have a better you have low amount of shots, higher amount of goals. You're gonna put yourself in good situations.
Oh yeah.
So trying to see here, just trying to look at some of these things here, and figure out this NHL Edge thing, which I don't know. Have you looked into this a little bit?
I
Have
looked
you
at it
used
like
it?
once.
This
Yeah,
is
I
a
looked at it
lot.
like
I mean,
once last
for
year.
me, this is really cool. Because you can break down, like, they spend 40% of the time of the game in the offensive zone, at least during, like, um, all strength, even strength. They're spending 39.5% in the offensive zone. They're spending 43% in the defensive zone, 17% in the neutral zone. So it's kind of fun to see the numbers and be able to. Oh, here we go. Here's a power play though. Here's a big one. 54% of the time on the power play is spent in the offensive zone, with 29%, almost 30% in the defensive zone, which is actually below average. The
Yeah, I
54% is
know.
below average, league average, with league average is 58.2%. So it's below the 50th percentile in offensive zone on the power play, which is, yeah.
Yeah, I know when they were playing us the other night, they were 0 for 20. I think to end the game. When they came in, they were 0 for 17 on the power play.
Yeah. I wish it kind of broke it down by that too. Let's see in here. I'm sure it does. I just have to find it. I'll find it at some point. You talk about, the goalie situation too with Logan Thompson. Let me get his name pulled up here. What happened? Oh, Logan Thompson. You got Charlie Lindgren, who's not that bad of I almost said quarterback. Oh, God. I mean, same thing, right? Yeah, Logan
But
Thompson,
they are.
5-0-0, 2.97 goals against average so far on the season in the 5 games he's played. Out of the was it 10 games they've played so far? No, that don't make sense. 8 games. No,
Yeah, he's
82
10's
10
right
games. Yeah, 10 games.
because Rangers are 7-2-1.
Yeah. So he's having a pretty solid season so far. He's up there in the lower percentile or lower percentage for goals against average. Overall save percentage is below 50, below the 50th percentile as well. So he's having a heck of a season so far. At least it seems like he's only allowed 15 goals so far in the season as well. So it seems like a pretty solid guy to have right now as your goaltender in Washington.
Yeah, and this is his final year too, so he'll be a free agent. So maybe he's just trying to get his stock up for his next team that he can be a starter with instead of splitting with like a Charlie Lindgren.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, I'm sure as much as I thought the Capitals were going to be more of with the way they traded for, or not traded, but they picked Lindgren up in free agency a couple of years ago. I thought that he was going to be their guy, but I guess I mean, they're splitting the time, so I guess it's fair to say that he could still be the Capitals, number one goalie at some point. But I don't know if it's going to happen at this point. I mean, the way if Logan Thompson continues to play and puts him in situations to keep getting wins, you got to go with the guy who has a hot glove.
Oh yeah, I've seen that many times over the years for certain goalies, not even just with the Rangers, but just in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think ultimately it'll be Thompson's team. I don't know why. I just think like Charles Lindgren's good, but I think that exactly what you're saying. I don't know if he's gonna be that guy for this team.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll jump over to the Pacific Division now in our standings checks. You have the Vegas Golden Knights, who are at 8-3-1, 17 points on the season. The Los Angeles Kings, you're welcome, sitting at 6-3, 6-3-3, 12 games played so far. They're 15 points, second place in the Pacific. The Vancouver Canucks have found their way back into the top of the order, sitting there in third place at 5-2-3 at 13 points. The Flames have really fallen off since the beginning of the season. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're now 6-4-1 on the season, 13 points. So they started out 5-0, right? Is what it was.
And everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, so the Flames, they're back. Yes, they're back. Which now puts the Edmonton Oilers just 2 points behind them at 5-1. So,
do you think the Oilers make a push? Because they literally just lost the best player in the league for 3 weeks with an ankle injury. He is your team. Yes, you have Draisaitl, but that's one guy. I mean, who else do you have? Corey Perry, old Jeff Skinner. He's okay. He's not going to go on a run. No, Jeff Skinner. He's from Buffalo. They bought him out.
Yeah. Oh,
I signed the 1 year, and he signed the 1 year deal. 1 year.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody retired. Like he was an older player. He retired. He was at Edmonton and he retired. It was somebody like that. I thought maybe not.
It was probably someone. But regardless, you just lost your best guy. You paid all this money for the top six. Defense is still a little shaky. Arvidsson on offense is
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't think the Oilers are going to make it to the playoffs if they get into a deep hole without McDavid.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle, but at the same time, at some point you're going to have to play without McDavid. It's going to happen. Injuries happen. You know, how are you as a team going to respond to not having your top goal scorer, top points getter on the ice every night and it's only 3 weeks. I mean, realistically it's 3 weeks. If that's the case, that's really, really not that long. I mean, there's some teams out there that are only going to play 5 games or 5, 6, 7 games in 3 weeks. They're not going to play a lot. So if you're the Edmonton Oilers, you're looking at this stretch, you're going, all right, we have to go at least 500 to keep ourselves afloat, at least 500 to keep ourselves afloat, and at least in the Pacific and just in the West in general, because the West is so deep all around. I mean, you look at the Anaheim Ducks, who I was even expecting to have 10 points on the season. They're only 1 point behind Edmonton right now.
Yeah, they're not a bad
in the Pacific
team.
Division.
Yeah, like Leo Carlson is a man. Like that dude is nasty. I can see why they wanted him over Fantilli in the draft, because that was like one of the biggest question marks like in that draft 2 years ago. So he's coming into his own. I mean, you have Trevor Zegras. I think he'll get traded for the right price.
Yeah.
But right now he's not doing too bad. Was it McTavish? This is another good young guy they have. The goaltending's okay. It's a little sus, but
it's keeping them in games.
It's keeping them in games. Yeah, exactly. And this was last week, but I don't know. They've been doing pretty good, in my opinion. And it's still a young team, so you have no expectations. But I think they can get some. Like we said last week, the road orange jerseys are a little odd.
They're not. They're not great. That's for sure. They actually play the Chicago Blackhawks. They have a nice little home stretch. They got the next 6 games at home. The Anaheim Ducks do. They play, and I just flipped it over. I meant to keep it on November. So they start a 6-game home stretch tonight with Chicago, and then Vancouver comes to town, and then Minnesota, Columbus, Vegas, and Detroit. So you look at it, you go 4-2 in this home stretch. That's solid. You can beat Chicago. maybe 3-3 then, because you got Vancouver, Minnesota, and Vegas. You should beat Columbus. You should beat Detroit. Could be Detroit. Could be Columbus. I imagine you could possibly pick up a win between Vancouver, Minnesota, and Vegas. One of those three teams is going to probably be in a little bit of a pickle at some point in this nice little home stretch. I mean, hell, their November schedule is nice. They play 3 road games in November.
Sheesh.
They have a road game at Dallas, at Chicago, and then at Seattle to end the month. Where they have back-to-backs basically against Seattle. They play Seattle the 25th, and then they play Seattle the 27th, like a home-and-home kind of series type of deal. So, yeah, the Anaheim Ducks, you got a good amount of home games right now. Now's the time to
kind of you're made of.
Yeah, put your foot to the gas a little bit and get something going here, and put yourself in a better situation for later on in the season. Getting up to the midpoint of the season, going into December.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I don't think they'll beat Vegas, and I don't think they're going to beat Minnesota. And I haven't really been watching Minnesota. I didn't think they were going to be that good, but they're actually doing pretty good, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
The only person I care about in that team is my boy Matt Zuccarello. But apparently that's a good team this year. It's kind of surprising because it's like the same squad as last year. I mean, is it just the Hines magic? Because he kind of he doesn't do well in the playoffs with his teams. Yeah. I think he's been to 4 playoffs with the Predators, and he's only never gotten out of the first round. So I don't know. I don't know if they're just buying into John Hines. I know teams were looking at him last year, and they were kind of like, you're okay. And he did bring that Devils team with Taylor Hall to the playoffs, but he was riding on Taylor Hall. Mm-hmm. They didn't do well either. So I'm just curious as to what is going on in Minnesota that's making John Hines good. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll jump over to the Central Division standing check-in really quick. You still have Winnipeg, who which we have a wonderful, and I'll read this to you as a comment from last week's show about the Winnipeg Jets as well. It's from at Wesley Follis 5160. It was about the Winnipeg Jets. It says Hellebuck does not work that hard. Baloney. Absolute baloney. The Jets' identity is team defense as it was last year. That's fair. They've always been a very good defensive team. They've just never had a great offense. They'll score in bursts, but they're not going to score constantly over a week. Last year, the Jets were a good team with the same identity, but were poor on special teams. Fair. They are now ranked now at the top of the league on special teams. Okay, I mean it's going to happen. You got good special teams. You got a good power play. You got a good penalty kill. You're going to be one of the top teams in the league just for those reasons right there. It's like in the NFL. If you got good special teams, that's going to pin a team. You punt the ball from your 25, you're going to pin the team on the opposite 15. That's good. That's great. You're going to get a kick return, a kick return for a touchdown every once in a while. Fantastic. They said, I think this team is going to do great things, but if they only need to be about 600 for the rest of the year to get in the playoffs. The playoffs are another story, and the Jets will have to prove people wrong there for this team to get any respect.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the playoff part. I mean, yeah. But they still have a good top 6. I'm just surprised that Nemestikov. I'm probably saying it. Not Nemestikov. Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong. But he's bounced around the league for a little bit. I know he was with Tampa, the Rangers, and then he went to Ottawa, stuff like that. So he's stepping it up big time for that. I think he's the 2C on that Winnipeg team. So Neil Pionk is still a pretty good defenseman. I would know. We traded for him for Jacob Trouba. So I just think they're good in the regular season. But it's just the playoffs. They just never get over that hump. And especially if Connor Hellebuck's going to turn into a pumpkin in the playoffs, I mean, they're going to have to make some trades or something to like help him out. But yeah, no, I think this team is still going to be good. They have all the pieces, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I just wish they kept either Tyler Toffoli. I felt like he was a good piece for that team offensively, but I guess they just didn't have enough money for him.
Yeah, so they're still sitting at 11 games on the season so far. They're 10-1-0, 20 points so far. They've scored 52 goals this season.
Jesus.
52, which isn't even the most in the league. Vegas has 54.
With all those ex-Blues players.
Vegas has 54. Winnipeg has 52. But the big difference is they've only allowed 26 goals. Like we mentioned, they're a very good defensive team. They've always been a good defensive team. When you have somebody like Connor Hellebuck in the net, it's expected. You get plus 26 on the goal differential so far. They're 6-0 on the road. That's probably the most impressive stat for me, is they're 6-0 away from home, because playing in Winnipeg has always been tough. I mean, most teams don't like going to Winnipeg, just because it's not a fun place to play. It can get loud.
Even their own fans don't go.
Well, besides that, it just I mean, realistic. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a fun place to play. It seems like it can be one of those arenas if it is sold out that's just out of the world.
And that's why I said that, because last year they were doing the same thing. They were a top 3 team. They were fast, because I had to listen to one of the games last year on my phone, and they were Maloney was saying, man, this team is just like really quick with the skates, this and that, and then it's like there's nobody in the stands. And it's like, what? Like, I know they were thinking about moving Winnipeg to like the Houston or just get a better market, because like your team's doing well, but your fans aren't there, which makes maybe it's just a stadium thing, like you were just saying, but it's just crazy. That their fans are not packing the stadium up. But maybe are they this year's Vancouver's team though? Like Vancouver of last year, where they had that almost an identical record type. Everyone was just clicking on that Vancouver team, and everyone thought they were going to win the President's Trophy. I'm kind of seeing that.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know if they're at the same. I mean, I would say that they're probably better than that Vancouver team last year. If you put this Jets team against that Canucks team, I think this Jets team wins 3 out of 5 really easily.
I can see that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're a good team. They're in a very tough division, so they're going to be a tough team to play all along, like all throughout the whole year. I mean, you look at I would say the Central Division isn't as strong. I mean, it's still a tough division, yes, but it's not as strong as it has been in years past.
That's factual.
Colorado, who's 12 games into the season, they're 5-7-0 at 10 points. Nashville, who we all thought were going to be the roly-polies of the West and just not even have any games with anyone. Who are 4-6-1 and 9 points and barely hanging on to being last in the Central Division behind Chicago.
Insane.
Yeah. With that team, you thought, you'd think the Nashville Predators would be at a higher mark, but again, it's a lot of older guys. A lot of older guys in Nashville, so who knows? I mean, that might be an issue there.
Do you consider that like the 2009 Philadelphia Eagles, where they grabbed Vince Young, Nami Asamoah? They were just grabbing all these guys, and they were just throwing them in there.
They're trying to find
Andy Reid's team.
They're trying to find the perfect pieces to fit the puzzle that they had last year, because they were a good team last year. And
absolutely, especially after that non-U2 concert.
Well, like the Predators were a good team last year, so they're just trying to find the right pieces, and they thought that bringing Marshall Schultz in and Stamkos in, we're gonna do it. You already had Ryan O'Reilly. You have
Philip Forsberg.
You have some of those. Saros is probably the big. I would say probably the big issue.
He's been giving up a lot of goals lately.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the defense or him. I haven't watched too much Nashville games. Like the last one I watched was Stammer's return to Tampa, and I'll say what I need to say in my final words for that one. But I don't know what's been going on with this team. I think they just still need to gel. But I was listening to Forsberg when he's on the Empty Netters, and Barry Trotz, when he signed all these guys, he put it in a group chat with all the captains, and he was like, "Just signed, boom, boom, boom," and that's it. I was like, "Oh, all right, like you're not going to expand." But I know Stammer only has the one goal and 2 assists, and that's very unlike Steven Stamkos. So maybe Tampa was onto something. Hopefully I'm proven wrong because he's still one of the best Canadian players in the game. But, I think it's just a rocky start. I think going forward they should be fine. Like, Marcia Schultz is a Stanley Cup champion. Like, we've seen him with, do it in Vegas, do it in Tampa. So I don't think anything's wrong with that. Maybe they're finally going to get it together for this Vancouver team. But what I think Ross Colton for Colorado is going to hurt them more than they think, because that dude was on a blender. He was dicing up these teams. I think he has 9 goals before he went down with his hand, and he was kind of lifting up this Colorado team. I know they don't have what's the other guy? They don't have one of the defensemen. I think he's hurt. Yeah. And I don't know. Ross Colton was just on one before he got hurt, and I think it's going to hurt him even more.
In 10 games this year, Ross Colton 8 goals, 1 assist, 9 points. He's a -2.
I'm off by a goal so for today.
Yeah. I don't see anything how long he'll be out.
I think it was 4 weeks or something, 4 to 6 weeks.
Let's see what I can
with
find.
A broken hand, but I could be wrong on that too. But I do like that they don't have Georgiev starting a lot. I think it's given that young guy some burn time, but it might hurt them in the end trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and Colorado has a solid schedule coming up. They have Seattle. They're home against Seattle, and then they're at Winnipeg.
It's an 0-2 right there.
Yeah, and then they're home against Carolina.
Could be 0-3.
And then they're back home against Nashville, who they just played last night and lost 5-2.
Oh, they did lose. Okay, I wasn't sure what happened in that game. You can be 0-4 real quick.
And then they're at home. It gets better. Trust me, it gets better. Then you're at home against LA. I'll give them a win. I'd give them a win.
I'll give them either an OT or shootout win.
Okay, and then they're at home against Washington.
Oh Jesus! All right,
and that hits the mid mark. That hits the mid mark of the month, and then they're at Philadelphia. At Washington.
Not a win.
At Florida. At Tampa Bay.
Then
they're home against Vegas, and then at Dallas, and then home against Edmonton to finish out November.
Sheesh. Yeah, you could muster 3-4 wins maybe
in a month.
Oh my god.
Rough. That's rough.
Shout out to Seattle though. They're actually doing pretty good. Also to shout out Brandon Montour.
You think they are?
They're not doing too bad. They're not I'm gonna win the division, but they're playing some pretty solid hockey.
They just lost 3-0 to Ottawa.
Ottawa's still a good team. They're a good middle of the pack team.
Seattle is now 5-6-1, which we said at the beginning of the year, and I was wrong about this one too. That Seattle was going to win the Pacific.
They still could.
They're 11. They're only 11. They're at 11 points. They're 5-6-1. At 37 goals for, goals against.
Yeah, are they the same as the Blues?
Yeah, they're probably pretty even, and that's what. Yeah, I said. I think I was on with Jimmy and them. I was like, that's where they're going to be. They're going to be with, right in the middle of the pack, with Utah and I didn't expect Colorado to be right there, but it's just where they are right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I like the way they're playing up there, and this is the most Seattle games I've watched so far than I have the last like 2-3 years. I've already watched like 2 or 3 games by Seattle.
Yeah.
And one of them was the Brandon Montour 3-goal game, which I think only one of 6 defensemen have ever done it.
Yeah. Any final, or let's do this. I want to try something. Give me one team who's hot, one team who's not. Right now.
I'll go hot. Washington Capitals.
Yep, easy.
They're just a force.
Yeah.
If I'm another team, I'll say. I will say.
I'm surprised you didn't say Florida.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
I'll go with the Lightning.
Okay.
I think they're doing pretty well, so I'll go hot with them, and then not the New York Islanders, because of course there has to be drama. And then if I want to do another one, I'll do. Just can't do those 2 teams. I'll go Flyers.
That's fair. That's good. Yeah. Both bottom of the Metro. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Islanders are 4-5-1 the last 10. The Philadelphia Flyers are 3-6-1 in their last 10. For my hot, give me the Carolina Hurricanes. 5 straight wins right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're playing. They seem to be playing really good hockey all around. For who's not hot, and I'm gonna probably bite my tongue on this, but it's Seattle. I know you just said that they're playing good. They've lost 2 straight now. They're 4-5-1 over their last 10. Give me Seattle as my who's not hot right now.
Now they're going to heat up now.
And that's fine. That's fine. If that's what happens, that's what happens. I picked them to win the Pacific this year. So, actually, did I pick Seattle or did I pick Kings? I don't remember.
You picked the Kings.
I did pick the Kings. Yeah. That's 2 points. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. Any final food for thought on as we wrap up episode 4, 5 of the 5 hole?
I think it's 5.
5? Yeah.
5 of the 5 hole. Yeah. So with the Tampa, Steven Stamkos returning back. I don't understand the fans that said we don't want you here.
I saw that too.
They must have been people that have just started watching the Lightning, because he literally brought you to 3 to 4 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
He won 2 of them. So I guess he's terrible. So shout out to those fake fans in Tampa there, where they crossed out his number. Also to I think that's all I had for that part. Also make sure you guys subscribe, hit the little bell in the corner, it goes ding. As always. And that way you can watch the 5 hole. Hopefully tonight there will be 2 other shows going on, so check that out too. Subscribe. I know you guys are close to getting. We have 2 more subscribers that you need.
To 650.
650.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Put it in the comments too. As you just heard on the show, we read a comment from last week. If you put comments in on the show, we'll discuss them depending on what it is. Follow all the rest of the shows on Variety Sports Network. Absolutely. I watch most of them at work, and even my son's saying it too. Yeah, it's been a blast so far. The way the NHL season has went, I can't really be too upset. I mean, there's a lot of teams that got it given us something to talk about. You know, the last few years it's been the same teams over and over. Like, it's the Colorado Avalanche, it's the Vegas Golden Knights, it's the New York Rangers, it's the Carolina Hurricanes. Now we get to talk about the Washington Capitals, we get to talk about the Winnipeg Jets, the Minnesota Wild. So other teams that we don't typically get to talk about too much. It's been fun. So make sure you tune in next weekend for another new episode of the 5 Hole, and check out all the other ones. And we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, we appreciate it. See you next time. Of course you did. Shit, I knew you did too.